Welcome in. Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we're talking about draft targets. Here's what we will do. I'm going to go over every position of need and a player to watch who the Seahawks could potentially add in the first round with their 2 first-round picks. Somebody that could be a good fit. We'll give you the scouting report, everything you need to know about one player for each position of need in the first round. We'll get to that here in just a second. Before we do, all week long, we've been battling our Niners channel and our Cowboys channel in subs this week. And I got to say, we're doing pretty good. We've held our own, but we're coming towards the finish line. I want to end on a high note. And we're also close to 36,000 subscribers as well. So, subscribe to the channel. Let's stick it to the Niners, our division rivals. Let's stick it to the Cowboys report and that fraud that is Tom Downey. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. Let's get to 36K. Do it. I believe in you. The NFL Draft, just around the corner, just a few weeks away. And I'm going to go through a few different positions of need for the Seahawks and some potential fits for Seattle in the first round. One player for each position. And so with that, let's go ahead and get started with the obvious name at the defensive tackle spot, Jalen Carter from Georgia. We have talked a lot about Jalen Carter ever since the Seahawks season ended in 2022. The 2022 season ended of who they could potentially add. And Jalen Carter seemed like a natural fit for what the Seahawks are looking for and the talent level he brings. Mel Kiper has him as the number 1 player in the draft, the number 1 player, number 1 defensive tackle as well, unanimous All-American selection. He won 2 national titles with the Georgia Bulldogs. Jalen Carter is all that. Now, if the Bears would have held on to the number 1 pick, the belief was that the Bears were going to take Jalen Carter at 1. They ultimately ended up trading back to the number 9 spot with Carolina. And so Jalen Carter is not going to go number 1. He's probably not going to go number 2. And a lot more mock drafts as of late are projecting Jalen Carter to fall to the Seahawks at 5. Now, there are some concerns with the car wreck that he had a couple months ago, with the unimpressive pro day, all these things. But I got to tell you, you can't ignore what the scouting report, what the highlights, the tape say on Jalen Carter, because it's all there for this guy. According to Lance Zierlein, NFL Media, here's what he had to say, the breakdown on Jalen Carter. Here's what he had to say about him. The tape shows a defender with odd or even front versatility and a rare blend of first-step quickness and leverage through contact. He's capable of finding quick wins against sloppy guard play and finishes the play once he's in the backfield. His hand usage can be violent or subtle, but the feet are always active and searching for an opening. Based upon talent, traits, and projection, Carter appears to be ready to step into the NFL and become a productive 3-down talent with Pro Bowl potential. That's what I want to hear, folks. That gets the juices flowing. That gets you excited to hear those words. What position should Seattle draft in round 1? Should it be defensive tackle, quarterback, wide receiver, corner, edge rusher? It's our pinned comment today. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. What position should Seattle draft in the first round? Let me know. Next up is Will Anderson. Now, Will Anderson might not be available for the Seahawks at 5. A lot of people are talking about him potentially going to the Arizona Cardinals at 3. But if he's there, this is a guy that's going to be hard to say no to. I think he's my personal favorite player in the entire draft, more than Jalen Carter, actually. He's the number 2 player, according to Mel Kiper, and the number 1 outside linebacker on Kiper's big board. 2-time unanimous All-American, 2-time SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I've even said this about Will Anderson, the way that I like him so much. If I was a team that was in need of a quarterback, like, let's say Seattle, for example, you need a quarterback in your future, right? I would pass on a quarterback to get Will Anderson. That's how good he is. He is a generational talent. Here's Zierlein, what he had to say about Will Anderson. Even when he's blocked around the arc or on the diagonal, Anderson's footwork, cornering, and closing speed help him drive into the pocket. There is room for more growth with hand usage, and he will need to prove he can keep racking up these sack totals outside of Nick Saban's scheme. All that's very true. It's a very good point. Sack totals, though, were pretty dang good. With 10 sacks, 51 tackles last year, Will Anderson is a beast. I can tell you that much. Another name, kind of the more notable names, is C.J. Stroud at the quarterback position. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, quarterback? Seahawks got Geno Smith. Well, you're in a position, if you're Seattle, that if you fall in love with a quarterback, they can sit behind Geno and they don't have to play right away. I expect Bryce Young to go 1 or at the very least number 2. C.J. Stroud, the reason why we're talking about him today, because I think he's more likely to slide than Bryce Young is, where the Seahawks pick at 5. Stroud, the number 5 player overall. He's number 3 in Kiper's big board. For whatever reason, Kiper likes Will Levis better than C.J. Stroud, which I just think is ridiculous. But nonetheless, second-team All-American, 2-time first-team All-Big Ten performer. C.J. Stroud is something else, and he has everything that you could want. He is very accurate. He's got a good arm. He is a good athlete. Zerline had this to say about him. Stroud's accuracy stands out on tape. He's able to lead receivers with good placement and make on-frame throws to targets on all areas of the field. The question is now, how quickly will he acclimate outside of the Ohio State scheme? Stroud didn't often attack defenses with his legs, but if he can become a more willing runner, he will be able to extend drives rather than feeling forced into more challenging decision-making situations. 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The big knock I have on Stroud, though, is that 2 of the 3 most important games of his career, those games against Michigan to end the season this year and last year, against an arch rival nonetheless, he did not play well. He struggled on the biggest stage. Compare that to Bryce Young, who's done a really good job on some of the biggest stages he's been a part of. So that kind of concerns me is, does he have that dog in him, that it factor? I don't know. Should Seattle take a quarterback in round 1? Whether it's at 5 or 20, should the Seahawks draft a quarterback within the first round? Let us know in the comments section. Y for yes, in for no. Should Seattle draft a quarterback or not? Tell us in the comment section. Y for yes, in for no in the first round. Draft hats are on sale now with NFL Draft just around the corner. We are selling the same exact hats that the rookies will be wearing on draft night. Whether you're filling the ball cap style, the flat bill, whatever it may be, we got you covered either way. The white one is a personal favorite of Jeremy Chugg's. Whatever you're feeling, whether it's the white one or the blue one, we got you covered, and you might as well get yours now while supplies last. Look, these things are only on sale for a limited time, so go ahead and get yours today. Chatsports.com/Seahawks draft to get your draft hats now while supplies last. That's chatsports.com/Seahawks draft. All right, we're going to go through a little quicker now on some of these other names here. Joey Porter Jr., corner from Penn State. I know some guys are talking about Witherspoon or Gonzalez, but Joey Porter Jr., I think, is a guy that could be a good complement to Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen's going to get 5-6+ interceptions a year. Joey Porter Jr. can be the guy to be the lockdown, no-fly zone corner for your defense. Number 10 overall player according to Kiper. Number 3 player on his big board, first-team All-American. He's also the son of former NFL linebacker Joey Porter. This is a guy that I have my eye on for that 20th pick. We've seen him project as high as 10, project even in the 20s or 25s. If he's around at 20, this could make a lot of sense for Seattle. According to Zerline, ascending cornerback combining traits and above-average play strength that create a clear definition of who he is as a player. He can reroute the release and has the frame to close catch windows against big receivers in press man or cover 2 looks. So pretty good there on the Joey Porter Jr. front of what he brings to the table. At wide receiver, my favorite receiver in this draft is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I know that you could talk to about 4 different people and get 4 different answers of who their favorite receiver is, whether it's JSN or Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, whatever it may be, but JSN's my favorite. And JSN, I'm looking at a guy, I know that he's the 17th player, number 2 receiver on Mel's big board, but think about what he did at Ohio State when he was playing with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. He was that dude. He was the best receiver in a group that had first-round receivers around him. Now, he missed most of this year with a hamstring injury. I'm not that concerned about a hamstring injury as far as I'm concerned. I mean, look at Jamar Chase. Didn't play his last season at LSU. Now he chose to sit out, but still, it didn't affect him. He came back and had a terrific rookie year. JSN, I think, could be an instant impact player. He's tough in the middle of the defense and has proven he can make catches in congestion. Smith-Njigba will need to fine-tune his route running to give himself his best chance to succeed at the next level. And you're looking at already having DK and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett's not getting any younger. Learn to be a better route runner a bit, and this could be the perfect transition to go from Lockett to JSN as far as I'm concerned. Wide receiver, how much of a need is that? What is the biggest need for Seattle entering this draft? Tell me in the comment section what comes to mind. What do you think the Seahawks need to address primarily? What is the number one priority? Tell us in the comment section below. A couple more names for you. At linebacker, Drew Sanders. Now, this would be with the second pick the Seahawks have in the first round, potentially taking Drew Sanders at 20. Now, I'll say this much as far as Drew Sanders goes. We've seen that a lot of these draft projections are talking about middle linebackers maybe all not getting in the first round. If one is going to go in the first round, it's going to be Drew Sanders. Number one middle linebacker on Kuiper's big board, first-team All-American this past year, won a national championship with the Crimson Tide, goes to Arkansas this past year, and was fantastic. Goes to a new scheme, new system and everything, and it didn't faze him. Drew Sanders was still a really, really good player. And, you look at the Seattle team. Devin Bush, I'm not a big fan of, if I'm going to be honest with you. You signed him. You brought him in from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's gotten worse since his rookie season. Okay? I think Drew Sanders could potentially come in. Let's say Jordan Brooks isn't healthy. I think Drew Sanders could come in potentially right away, beat out Devin Bush, and start alongside Bobby Wagner, middle linebacker. Zerline on Drew Sanders. He's tough out for interior protection as a blitzing linebacker and has natural rush talent to hunt quarterbacks off the edge. Sanders' athletic gifts, versatility, and toughness could help him become a highly impactful playmaker with Pro Bowl upside. 103 tackles, 9.5 sacks last year for Drew Sanders. Watch out. I'm telling you, Drew Sanders could be something special potentially. One more name, that is O'Cyrus Torrence. His stock has kind of gone down the last couple of weeks, but he is the best true offensive guard in this draft. Big Pete from Northwestern, I think, is more of a tackle than a guard personally. But O'Cyrus Torrence, number one true offensive guard on Kuiper's big board. He would be available at 20. He might slip to be available for the Seahawks with one of their second-round picks. And this was a guy that was at Louisiana Lafayette with the Ragin' Cajuns, was a first-team all-conference performer in the Sun Belt there with Billy Napier. Follows Billy Napier to Florida and did not miss a beat transitioning to the SEC. Superior competition. He was ready. He stepped up, and he was great. Not only was he all-SEC, he was an all-American performer this past year, and now taking another jump up to the NFL, I think O'Cyrus Torrence could be ready for that challenge. More from Zerline. Not a natural bender, he is forced to engulf and pass rather than leverage and drive as a run blocker, but he's solid at neutralizing the man across from him. He uses his hands well to jab and maintain feel for the rush. But quick interior rushers with well-developed counters could be too much. So there you have it. O'Cyrus Torrence, potentially a good fit for the Seahawks. I know my guy Mark Sanchez likes O'Cyrus Torrence as well. Before we go, name a player you think the Seahawks should draft this year, whether it's somebody we talked about or somebody we did not talk about in today's show. Tell me in the comment section who you'd like to see in a Seahawks uniform next year. Interact with me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. That's where you can find me when I'm not on Seahawks Today. I'll see you next time here on the channel. Thanks for joining us.